Too much knowledge may actually be the reason why you struggle in certain areas of your life. I have come to notice this because it has happened to me. When you have too much knowledge, it is going to make it difficult for you to be decisive. It is going to promote a high level of indecision that is going to hamper your growth, that is going to prevent you from getting to certain levels. This is true because I've experienced it. Of course, some people may argue, like we already know, that knowledge is power, which I totally agree with. Knowledge is power. But in this case, I'm talking about too much knowledge can be very devastating. Too much knowledge can be destructive. Too much knowledge has the capacity to promote indecisiveness. And because of that, it will limit your ability, your potential, and your achievements. This is true because when you learn something, or when you understand something, or when you know something, it will be easy for you to implement it. Maybe you go to learn a trade, or you learn a skill, or maybe you watch one of these videos online, or read an article online on how to do something and you know how to do it. It will actually be very easy for you to just go out and do it, and maybe achieve success or failure, and reiterate and try it again. But for a case of too much knowledge, is whereby you've learned something, and after learning that you learned something else, and after learning that you learned something else, and after learning that you learned something else, it gets to a point whereby you realize that you know too much, you know a lot of things. And because you know a lot of things, it will be difficult for you to make decisions when the time comes. So when something appears before you, when an issue appears before you that needs to be resolved, and all you need to just to make a quick decision and move ahead, you realize that it becomes difficult. Because of the variety of knowledge that you have, it will not be difficult for you to choose which of them you are going to apply to that particular issue. You think, okay, if I just do A, that will solve it. And then somewhere in your mind you say, no, how about C? Okay, no, but if I add C and B, it's going to make it faster. If I add D and A, maybe it will not be faster, but it's going to come out as high quality. Now, you see what is happening there right now? Your moment of decision is being delayed. And this is happening because, of course, we live in an age whereby everyone thinks that they are smart, and because you read one or two things, because you've consumed one or two contents, you think that you know it all. So it gets to a point whereby you start thinking that, because you know this and know this, you can combine this and get a good result, which can be true. Because you know A and B, you can combine A and B to do something and then get a better result, which is going to be much more better than someone that knows only A, which is true. But like I said, because you have that knowledge, the decision-making time will be delayed. And in most cases, you might even end up not really taking that decision because you have too much knowledge. But compare this to someone that maybe has a limited knowledge of something. He just knows how to do A. So when an issue comes in front of the person, when the person experiences the challenges, he doesn't have to compare A, B, and C, and D, or try to juxtapose this and that. He knows A, and he goes ahead and do A, and gets his result and move on. And if he doesn't get his result, he revises it, or he works it again and try it again, and when he gets the result, he moves on. But if you have A, B, C, D, E, F, and the challenges in front of you, guess what? It will be difficult for you to just use A and go. Because of course you can use A and get your result and move on, but you'll be thinking, oh, what if I did B? What if I did C? What if I combined E and F? What if I combined A and C? Which fantastic, you can get good, better results. But think about it. How fast can that be? A lot of people get drowned in that fact that, when they have a lot of knowledge, they're going to get better results. They're going to achieve better. They're going to achieve more because they have more knowledge. They might have more understanding. But they forget the fact that because that more understanding and more knowledge is there, it's going to impair the ability to make quick decisions. And the one who is able to make a faster decision and get further ahead than someone who takes time to make a decision. And that is why when you look at it a lot of times, when a business starts, when someone starts a business as an entrepreneur or a startup, there is a high possibility that that business will grow very fast, or that business will be very efficient because it is still at the beginning stage. There is no much bureaucracy in the system. All the corporate bullshits are not there yet. They don't have to have this mail, go to this mail, sign up by this, approved by the supervisor, this manager, the senior manager, go to the corp. It doesn't have to go through that. When the challenges is presented in front of them, the owner of the business, the entrepreneur, takes a decision and move ahead. If the decision comes out right, fine. If it doesn't come out right, fine. We reiterate and does it again and get the result and move on. But for a big corporation, you see that it is quite difficult. That's why when you have a product, it's difficult to change product. You check some of these big companies, you go to their pages or go to all these online review platforms, you see people reviewing their product and how bad certain products are. But it still takes a lot of time for them to change, because change doesn't come easily for them. Because of course you have to go through the protocol, you have to go through the marketing, you have to go through the legal, you have to go through this, you have to go through the senior manager, the supervisor, and the rest of them. A lot of mails flying around, and at the end of the day, no one gets to give the result that they want. And then they hold meeting for the rest of the day. Every day they are holding board meetings and this and that and that. So decision is very far from them, other than they talk a lot. Keep revising, keep rehashing, but they don't get good result fast. Of course, they have more money for inventory, they have more money for research, they have more money for that, but yet you can't compare the efficiency with a smaller business in terms of customer service. Because the one of a smaller business, of course, that doesn't mean that they have less knowledge, but they have less bureaucracy. So it can be equated to the fact that they have less knowledge in this case. But a bigger company has more access to resources, so their knowledge is higher. So for them to take a decision, they'll go through person A, B, C, D, go through different offices, different approvals, different signatures, and different verifications before they get the product out. And that might be taking 2 months, 3 months, a year, 2 years, or 10 years. But go to a solar company. Immediately you are lodging the complaint and the person says that they can do it. They implement it right away. So that is the context I'm trying to bring in this case now. So when you have limited knowledge of something, of course, this will make you feel like, oh, you can just do it. You can be delusional, which in this case is good, because you don't think ahead. You don't think more than you are supposed to think. You just try to get the result. And when it doesn't work, you reiterate and try it again. But when you have too much knowledge, you will not think that you are very smart. That leads you to the level of ego. Of course, I'm not saying ego is bad. Ego is good in certain realm to prove certain words. But in this case, because you think you know a lot, you're going to think that, oh, this has to be the best way to do it. And when you are halfway doing that, you'll be like, oh, I got another reaction. I got another idea. Let me twist this. Let me twist that. Let me twist this. And you might end up not really getting the thing done because you are indecisive. Now, don't get me wrong, because you have a lot of knowledge, it can help. And it will mean that maybe the kind of product you get or the result you get eventually might be better in quality, durability, and all of that than the person that has limited knowledge. But what I'm saying is that a lot of times people don't get to that end state whereby they get the final result, because they keep running around. They keep running around in ideas because they have that idea. They feel they have to use it. Because they have that knowledge, because they have that understanding, they feel they have to use it, they have to implement it. It's like a burden on them. But someone who doesn't have all those 7 pieces of information, just has only one, and that one is effective, they get to apply it immediately. But you that have 20, that will of course eventually make you to become efficient. But before you get to the level of achievement, it's going to take a lot of time. So knowledge, as much as knowledge is power, as much as knowledge is good, knowledge can be destructive, knowledge can be wasteful, knowledge can lead to indecisiveness, and of course to a lot of heartbreaks. I don't want to tell this towards relationship, but we all know what is happening this day. With too much knowledge comes a lot of issues, but with less knowledge comes with immediate results. Think about that.